you ready for a little Southern humor mixed with relevant topics we can all relate to? We're about to pull back the curtains and mix it up. Scoot your chair up. It's time to talk about all the things and ask all the questions. Welcome to Get It Together, y'all.
Hello. I'm so glad you joined us today. Get It Together, y'all, is a podcast, and we also do video. So if you're listening to this podcast and you found us on some platform that offers podcasts, we also have a video, and you can hop over to, is it YouTube?
YouTube.
YouTube, and you can see the video of it because we're cute. We have a cute set. So if you're just listening, you're missing it. But we are having fun today. We are going to have a great show, and I can't wait for it. I'm so here for it. I've been looking forward to this show for some time now, y'all. And so we have a fellow Texan in the house, and I am so excited about that. So let me introduce myself. My name is Cindy Larson, and I'm your host. And
I'm your co-host, April Potter.
yes, we were saying before the, she's too young to know, but lately I've been saying she's my Ed McMahon. And some people don't know Ed McMahon was on Tonight Show with Johnny Carson before Star Search. Yeah. But see, I remember Tonight Show. So I'm a Tonight Show girl. And so I was a baby, but not so much because I was actually on the Tonight Show. My sister and I were pulled out of the audience in a Stump the Band little, they used to do that. So you can Google that. We might even, put a link up on our website. But Get It Together, y'all, is the guy that's doing this voiceover. Let me just introduce my friend over here, Shannon Stockstill.
Hi, Cindy.
And my fellow Texan, and her daughter Heather. And you're gonna get to know these women and how amazing what they do. They're very serious. They do a very serious job. It's a big deal. I'm so honored to have them. But before we get into like the depth and all the meat, we like to have a little fun. So I don't know, fellow Texan, if you recognize the guy doing the voiceover was a Texan.
Really?
Did you pick
Yes.
that up?
I did not pick that up.
Yeah, he's a Texan. So we were like, we need to have somebody read this copy. And April's like, I've got the guy. He's my friend. He's a podcaster.
Mm-hmm. He has a great voice for radio.
Yeah.
He's done radio for years.
You'll plug him and his name?
Yeah, Joel Johnson. We're hoping we have him on
Joel Johnson.
sometime.
We love you, Joel. You're our Get It Together, y'all, man. And we just absolutely love it. But yeah, every time I am going to Texas or, I'm hook 'em horns in some way or whatever, you're not. See? There's a lot of variety in Texas.
We are divided.
We are divided. It is a country all within itself. When I used to travel, I've traveled to every state and 35 different countries. And people used to ask me what my favorite country was, and I would tell them Texas. Within Texas, there are borders, there are mountains, there are
Lots and lots of miles.
a lot. Yeah, there's a million miles of kitty litter. And then there's you have everything. You have rivers and lakes and oceans and canyons and everything. So yeah, not every Texan is a Cowboys fan, and not every Texan is a what.
Some of us are Texas Tech Red Raiders.
Texas Tech Red Raiders. Oh my gosh. Did you go to school there?
I did not.
Okay.
I went 45 miles north in Plainview,
Okay.
Wayland Baptist University.
Oh my gosh.
But I went to a lot of the Texas Tech football and basketball games
Yeah.
with my grandparents.
Were
Yeah.
you born in Texas?
I was born in Clovis, New Mexico.
New
I
Mexico.
lived in Farwell, Texas, or my
Okay.
parents did.
Yeah.
But the closest hospital was Clovis, New Mexico. So they had to
Oh,
cross
wow.
the border.
Oh my gosh.
Panhandle.
Are you Tennessee?
No, I was born in Lubbock, Texas.
I was born in Lubbock, Texas. What? Probably the same hospital.
I have no idea. You'd have to ask her.
Oh,
I don't
my-
remember
She
it.
was born at Methodist.
Yeah, I was born in Methodist, but many years apart.
Both of my children.
Oh my gosh, my sister was born in Lubbock, and Amarillo, and I was born in Lubbock. So
Very
my
cool.
dad was born in Muleshoe, and my mom in Lamesa.
Yep.
So anyway,
That's
yeah,
very
just
cool.
little towns, and oh my gosh,
Cotton country.
Cotton country. Oh, good.
So Farwell, where we lived when I was born, that is Muleshoe, Littlefield,
Yeah.
Bovina, Freona, all that area.
Wow.
So, yeah.
My grandpa was a deputy sheriff when my mom was a little girl, and that was a Barney Fife town. Like he carried a
Lamesa?
yes, Lamesa, and he carried a pistol on his hip all the time, and he rarely used it. Like he would do things like he would pull over the town drunk, and he would reach in and get his keys out of the ignition. That was back when you had keys that went in the ignition. Hey, kids, there used to be keys that went into an ignition in the car, and he would reach in there, and they'd be crying. They knew what Mr. Cotton was going fixing to do, and he would pull those keys out and throw them in as far as he could down the ditch. And he said, by the time you find your keys, you'll be able to drive
Sober.
home. And they cry. And they just like, but in Barney Fife, jail, the guy that would let himself in.
Otis?
Otis.
Yeah.
Otis. Yeah. That was the kind of stuff that they dealt with. But I love those stories. And the other story that is just so cute. Grandma would make Grandpa breakfast every morning before he'd go off to the police station, sheriff's office, or whatever. And she had been saying, we have a mouse in this house. And he was just like, what do you want me to do about it? Well, anyway, one morning she squealed as the mouse ran under the cabinet, the little lip, and ran under the cabinet, and Grandpa just shot it right through the floor. He had to patch that floor up, but that mouse was no more. We have a little, several things that we like to do in this show, and one of them is called Southern Mother. And so I just told a Southern mother grandfather story, but she's a Southerner too, right?
Oh yeah, Alabama.
Yeah.
Oh.
So,
Yeah.
and my grandparents, actually, my Southern mother story today is, when I went off to college, my mom is so cute. She's just totally Miss Southern Belle. And so I get a letter in the mail, and Mom has sent me this little piece of paper, I guess, to tape up in my house. And it says, don't forget to brush your teeth. Don't forget to read your Bible. Don't forget to clean your face. And it just has all these little reminders, for me to do. And it was so cute. I still have it. Like I kept it all these years because it was so sweet.
Yeah.
But it's just, and she reminded us every night, me and my sister, before we would go to bed, did y'all say your prayers? Did you read your Sunday school lesson? Did you brush your teeth and floss? And just all these little reminders.
Oh,
So that's my little Southern mother moment.
Do you have a Southern mother memory? Like, do you do something that your mother did, and it's just part of your? Lots, but anything that would come to mind?
My mother was, we grew up in the Texas Panhandle.
Yeah.
My father was a cowboy on a over 600 section ranch. He was one of 30 cowboys.
Wow.
And so we literally did roundups on different sections of the ranch. But my mother is an incredible cook. And so I don't know how often it rolled around, but my mom would cook for all the cowboys. She would cook breakfast, and then we would take lunch out to the chuck wagon, and then they would cook at night on the chuck wagon. But so today, it's kind of like the tides have turned. We do a big breakfast every Saturday morning for our family, and they come over, and so just there's a lot of cooking tradition
Yeah.
that, and I never really thought I would develop that from my mom, but later in life we have.
Are they still living?
Yes, both of them are. They're spry, and
I love
they
it.
go more than we do.
Wow.
So,
There was something in the water back then.
Yeah.
My parents, sometimes I think they outkick me,
yeah,
you know, and they're of an age that you would think, you know, you have permission to slow down. Oh, getting old makes my dad mad.
yeah. My parents aren't real happy
Yeah.
about that. But I read something not too long ago, and it said that the greatest gift as a child of aging parents that you can give your parents is just let them live. You know, don't get on to them for driving at after 10 o'clock at night. Don't just let them live.
Just let them
Yeah.
live.
Yeah.
I love
good.
that. Recently, I adopted a motto, and I forgot about it till right now, so I need to readopt it. But it's just called "Let Them,"
Yeah.
and it's like if somebody in your life wants to, you know, make a bunch of mistakes, let them.
Yep.
You know, if your kids who are grown want to pick, you know, terrible friends and date, you know, losers, let them. Like,
Yeah.
it's like, no, really? That's all it takes is just a let them attitude.
Yep.
If you're, you know, anyway, I could go on, but that's great. That's great wisdom just to let them live, because, you know, I kind of want to go in behind my parents and say, now y'all, you know, do we need to edit? You know, I want to say that, but I don't dare, because
Yep.
they're just they're going to be really they're frustrated enough about just, you know, gravity.
Yeah.
But I'm frustrated about that too. So whatever. Don't watch me get up fast. You know, it's like, I'm going to take my time.
I'm going to be classy about
Yeah,
Yeah.
let's see. How am I gonna? You know, I heard a TikTok of a physical therapist, and she dealt with seniors, and she has all her seniors every couple 3 months practice getting down on the floor, get all the way down, lay down flat, and then practice getting up.
Oh my.
And then that is a test of how long you can live alone. Because if you can get up, and even if you got to figure out when you're not stressed, you have not fallen and nothing hurts. You're thinking, okay, I got to roll over, and I got to scoot over here, and I got to get up. This elbow's good, and you kind of figure out your system. And by the time you've done that about 6 times, if you were to trip, you're like, I know what to do. I got to lay down, and I got to roll over, and I got to up on this knee, and I got to scoot
got
over to
this.
this. And then that really helps you, because when you get panicked and you can't breathe and you can't think, and it's like, you're okay. You just need to get your system, and how does your body let you get up? And so anyway, I was telling my parents, you know, like, have y'all practiced getting up lately? You know, that's how I'll go. Like, but they help each other. Between the two of them, they make one real good person.
Yep. That's good.
Like, one of them see better, one of them hears better, one of them talks better, one of them thinks better. And I'm not saying what's what.
Isn't that what marriage is, though? The two become one.
Yes.
That's right. Oh my gosh. Well, I love my Southern family. So you have her.
I do.
So what do you like? Yeah, you need to close your ears. What does she do that you think is, you know, like, you now don't live in Texas, but what do you say? Yeah, my Texas family. Is it about the cooking and stuff too? Is that kind of thing that you carry forward?
I would say when we were younger, my papa, her dad, he had a garden. He didn't have a garden. We had a garden. And
Okay.
we worked it for him.
Okay.
But mom was always
you were his Hebrew slaves.
Yeah. Mom, she always was out there with us, teaching us, you know, like, this is how you plant a seed. This is how you cut the vegetable off, all the things. And for a long time, I would say I hated working in the garden. But recently, I've really just loved gardening and getting my hands in the dirt and
Yeah.
growing things. And a few years ago, I decided I was going to start growing flowers. And it wasn't, I didn't know this, but mom grew wildflowers in Texas. And so,
Wow.
yeah, I love gardening and I love growing things. And
That is great.
I definitely learned it from her, I would say.
So having that whole cowpoke kind of because my great grandmother, she would also do the bring the food out for the guys that were laying the coast to coast railroad, the first
Oh.
coast to coast railroad.
Yeah.
And my granny, my mama's granny, so my great granny, would go out and bring them dinner. And one of the things that was passed down to her son, which is my pop, and then my mama can make it too, but grease gravy, or black eye gravy. Black eye gravy. Do you know how to make black eye gravy? That's a real.
I make a
West
lot
Texas.
of gravy.
Yeah,
But
but black eye gravy is made with coffee instead of milk.
do not know how to do that.
Yeah. Basically, I mean, you could try it sometime. Just take the grease from your sausage, a little bit left in the pan, and then flour it. But when it's brown, instead of adding milk in there like you would do for a milk gravy, you just put a little coffee. And it just makes a black gravy that my grandpa used to call black eye gravy.
Very cool.
Yeah. So anyway, I guess we had a little cooking lesson today. That was part of our Southern Mother moment. Okay, we're switching gears because this is so much fun. This is the fun facts. So April and I are just addicted to this section of the show. And if you don't have something like in your back pocket, but you might think of something, because we all have things that we've tried to remember our whole entire life and we can't seem to remember, but there's some strange little weirdness that we always remember. And so if that strange little weirdness pops up in your brain, say, I've got one. I'm going to tell you a few fun facts. You got something?
I've got one.
You start.
Okay. Did you know that jet lag is worse if you travel from west to east?
Okay, let me see. Let me think about that. If you travel from west, so like from California, backwards. I didn't know that. Do you know why?
No.
Oh,
I'm just thinking maybe because of the time change and
well, there's a time
that's the
change
worst.
going.
I'm thinking
too.
maybe
That's
because
the
of the way the
worst.
sun comes up and goes down.
that could be too.
Wow. I'm going to look into that. We're going to look into that. Dog. Okay, listen to this. Oh my gosh. A dog named Duke was elected mayor 4 times in a township of Minnesota. He retired in 2018. Can you believe that? This little township elected a dog 4 times.
Wow.
Guess what?
What?
There is a town in Kentucky called Rabbit Hash.
Yeah.
They also have a border collie that's been a mayor. She died, and then they her name was Lucy, and they did wine after her, but they still have a dog for a mayor. I don't know what the name
Oh my
is.
gosh. So
Rabbit
it's-
Hash.
So there's
Kentucky.
this one is Cormorant, Minnesota.
Okay.
Isn't that funny?
Yes.
All right. It's illegal to chew gum in Singapore.
I'd be in trouble.
You'd be going to jail.
I would
I read that, but I actually experienced it when I was in my late teens, early 20s. We went to Singapore a few times, and they had at that time a $500 fine if you spit your gum out on the street. Yes.
Wow.
Wow.
Yes, they're not happy with it. Giraffes are 30 times more likely to be hit by lightning. Do you think it's because they're tall? Like they just
has to be.
Has to
I
be.
mean, they're
What in the
closer to the.
world? who's
sky.
going to go around doing that data? A cloud weighs about 1 million pounds. Who got to weigh that? Like, I want to be a scientist because you can say all kinds of things, and then people just go, huh.
Oh, that's true.
I want to be a weather person because you only have to be right 50% of the time. It either will or it won't, right?
That's right.
Every Saturday, we live downtown Nashville, and every Saturday at 12 noon, there is a tornado siren that they test.
Every week. I'd be
Yes.
freaking out every week.
Every week. And I just think it is so bizarre. And he goes on and on and on. And I'm like, this is the, wolf Like I would never, if it went off, I'd be going.
That's
well,
what I was trying to
it's
say. What
Saturday
if
at noon.
what if you have a tornado?
We
on
better
Saturday?
it's never better be at Saturday at noon.
Saturday
I'll tell
at
you
noon
that.
cannot happen.
I can tell you that. Because I would
Cindy's
just,
not going to shelter if it does.
I am not. I will not venture downstairs. Okay, listen to this one. You got another one? You doing a okay?
No, go ahead.
Lego Group is the world's largest tire manufacturer. They make tires 24/7, 365 days a year.
Wow.
Because all their toys.
Yeah.
All their toys that need tires. And they make 870,000 tires a day.
Wow.
Wow.
That's crazy.
Little teeny ones. But so what, producer? So what? The producer's going, little bitty teeny ones. We're talking a sheer number of tires, okay? We're not talking like,
It's a lot of
it
tires.
is a lot
is
of
a lot.
tires.
Wow.
Okay. Well, anyway, I just have two more. California has a larger population than Canada. What?
I
Especially,
could
and
imagine
this
that.
is even old
Yeah.
information. Now it would even be worse. I don't
yeah.
know. A lot of Californians are moving to Kentucky and Tennessee, aren't they?
And
Yeah.
Texas.
And yes, yes, they were not turning us into California. Like they come here to get away from California, and then they want us to be like California. I was recently on an airplane going back and forth from LA, and a girl got on here in Nashville that says Nashville needs a beach. I'm going, you just need to go back. Go back to Orange County.
Don't they
California.
have Nashville shores?
Nashville Shores.
Yeah.
I love you. I absolutely love you. There is something called Nashville Shores. It's just a funky old water park. It's just like a,
There you go.
Pretend man-made beach.
oh
Yeah.
my gosh. Why do
There
they
you
call
go.
it Nashville Shores? Why did they get away with that? It's a glorified, one big slide that does it even work? Does somebody die and they shut it down?
I don't know.
I don't know. It's a big
I've never
bathtub.
been.
Just saying,
believe
send
it
the
or not.
California person to
And the last one that I have, and then we'll get on to some serious business. No, let's not be serious. But spider silk is stronger than steel, and the military are trying to develop it into bulletproof clothing.
Wow.
Spider silk. So man, Spider-Man had it going on.
Wow.
Like that was a thing. Like no wonder he could climb a side of a mountain because it was stronger than silk, but it wasn't real. He wasn't real, but the spider silk is.
Wow.
Y'all are not helping me. Y'all have got to get
We're
on board.
listening.
I'm the host of this. You need to be nicer to me. Go, wow, Cindy. Come
Wow,
on.
Cindy.
Thank you. Gosh, we're gonna talk.
I'm just awestruck.
We're gonna have a
Yeah.
meeting.
She's awestruck.
You better not be. You better not be. Okay, I want to tell everybody why these ladies are here because, well, who should I start with? You're gonna say Heather, and she's gonna say you. So
You can start with my mom.
Okay,
I'll volunteer you.
you start. I know. Kind of give a little. How did you get into this field? Because you've done a lot of things, but how did you find your footing in this? And
So I think
tell them what you do first.
so I'm program director for CASA, Court Appointed Special Advocates of South Central Kentucky, and at the moment we serve 8 of our 10 county Brad region. But I got into advocacy as a child. I was always taken up for the underman,
Okay.
underdog. But I'm an adult survivor of child sexual abuse,
Okay.
and I discovered that I had an advocate at 11 years old in Jesus Christ.
Wow.
And so my favorite scripture is 1 John 2:1, where the scriptures say, "Don't sin, but if you do, we have an advocate in Jesus the Father." And so when I discovered in a childlike way that an advocate is someone who fights the bullies, basically. And so, I mean, I grew up just doing that. And I surrendered to the ministry when I was 19. And when we moved to Kentucky, I was 30. And my husband lost his job in the cotton industry. And so we found ourselves here with my parents. They were in the cattle business, and Todd went back to school. And so I knew I did not work outside of the home other than being on staff in different churches. But I knew if I had to go to work outside the home, I was going to make a difference. My legacy is not to leave a lot of money, but to leave a legacy of advocacy. And so I took a position in a school in family resource and youth services, and my children were small. Heather was 6, 7. But that position, we helped at-risk families and youth. And so I introduced Heather at a very young age what being an advocate looks like at both of my children. But in 1999, I served on a board in Bowling Green where CASA was presented to the community. And we brought CASA to Bowling Green. So, and years later, in 2022, I went on staff with them as one of the original board members.
Wow.
But what we do is we advocate for foster children and children in DCBS through the court system. Children don't have voices in the courts, and so CASA is a judge taking their robe off, swearing an individual in, volunteers, they are not paid, and saying, wear this robe, go be my eyes, my ears, my feet on the ground, and report back to me what this child wants. And so I supervise a team of 30 advocates, each of us do. We have close to 100 advocates. And the beautiful thing, so, you know, we live in this world where everywhere we turn, someone is using their voice to divide. Our
Right.
world
Yes.
is so crazy.
Right.
And they say we're a world that wants all inclusive, but there's all these pockets that are just exclusive.
Right.
Right.
And so, for me, advocacy is the backbone that will only bring a positive change. There's nothing better than people advocating. And I would compare it to when it's for our advocates, it's a collective voice fighting for the same thing, and that's to bring a child to the end of a court case where they have safe and permanent homes, either through adoption or reunification, or placed somewhere in fictive kin, you know, somewhere permanent.
Yeah.
So I would equate our advocacy to those years I spent conducting choirs, whether it be an ensemble of 10 or a choir of 100. The conductor has one goal in mind, and that is to be one voice. The individual voices coming together and being one voice.
Yeah.
And when I look at people, and it doesn't matter what you're advocating for. I mean, it's a passion that drives a group of people together and they become one. And what I've seen through that work is the healing that is fueled for these children, and the future is just a brighter and more equitable place where they can just start where they were at ground zero.
Yeah.
And so that's what we do. And the reason we're even existing is it started in Seattle, Washington. A judge made a wrong decision on a foster child. And he had lived with that his entire life. And so it was because he was so busy on the bench, because he made the wrong choice. He started CASA and he said, you know what? I can swear in an individual and they can go advocate for one of my children in my courtroom, and I'll know what's going on. And so we provide court reports to our judges that literally verbatim says what the child's wishes are.
So, in order to obtain that kind of report, your people have to go in to a home. Do you go in announced? Do you go in unannounced? Like, how do you do that?
No, I mean, we are officers of the court.
Yeah.
So what that does is we are appointed to that child. You know, you hear about all these HIPAA laws and you can't.
Right.
We have access to anything that has anything to do with that child.
Okay.
So if a child has a goal to reunify with their parents, we observe visitation between the biological parents and that child.
Okay.
We visit in their foster home once a month, and we always schedule. We want to respect the foster parents.
Yeah.
But we will show up unannounced to observe a biological parent and a child visit. So we obtain medical records. We keep up with their mental, like their therapy services, their mental health services. We have children who have special needs from abuse, so we keep up with their physical therapy. We try to get as much information as we can, and we are unlike guardian ad litems who are. Those are the children's attorneys in court. But unlike guardian ad litems, our volunteers can only have 2 cases per Kentucky law.
Okay.
So guardian ad litems may have 500 children.
Yeah.
But an advocate by law can only have 2 cases.
Wow.
Yeah.
I recently interviewed a gentleman who was probably my age, maybe 65, it's a little older maybe. And his story was that when his mother, when he was a baby, his mother married. She got away from the abusive father and married another man that was just as abusive, and he would hog tie this little toddler with all, and beat him and torture him. And he had he shouldn't have lived with one beating that a belt ripped his abdomen open. And anyway, I just questioned him, not trying to question him like, are you telling the truth? But there was nobody in his life that saw these scars and saw these things. They didn't take him to the doctor. They were protecting because they were afraid of this violent figure in the home. And this man has, now he's the age he is and has never been able to have children because of the injuries when he was a child, and so he's carried these hideous scars on his body his whole entire life. And he talked about it like it had just happened yesterday, and very matter of fact, but it's still very much a part of his identity and part of his daily story. And my heart went out to him, and I just thought, wasn't there anybody in this guy's life, this kid's life, a doctor, a nurse, a teacher, somebody that would have said, this child has been abused. There's obvious scars that he still had at 65. So that it had to have been fresh at 5 if it happened. Anyway, it just breaks my heart.
It does break your heart. Of course, we receive the worst of the worst cases.
Yeah.
There are about 1,500 cases in our court system.
Wow.
Where I'm at, and there's 100 advocates. So you can imagine the cases that the judges are. And one of the things I tell my advocates, we're not a soup kitchen, and we're not here to love on children.
Okay.
These children, most of them are not lovable. Mm-hmm. We're here to advocate. If you're trying to, if you receive a hug from from your child, that's a gift. But you are not here to get this child to hug you. You are here to be the voice of this child. And so that's a real harsh reality. Our advocates are required 30 hours of training before the judge will swear them in, and it's very difficult training. But they come out, they maybe signed up, oh, I just want to love on kids. Well, kids are baby goats. These are children. You're not here to love on them.
Yeah.
They're not lovable. They don't want to be loved. Be their voice.
Yeah.
And if you're focused on trying to get them to love you, you're missing what they want.
Well, that's a self-absorbed motive anyway. I want to feel better about myself, so I'm going to give of myself to a hurt child. But what you're saying is you're not part of this equation. You have to get past your own feel-good mindset and the identity that you want to attach to this, and be a badass. Be somebody
Yep.
that is just gonna fight tooth and nail. My mama, speaking of Southern mothers, she used to say, I'll fight bears for you, and she'd tell me that, leaving the house or putting me to bed, or all, my whole life. To this day, she'll say, be safe and let me know if I need to fight some bears for you. Like, she's now 83 years old. She couldn't fight a paper bag.
Speaking of her mother, April, did you know I took her to dinner on the back of my Harley Davidson one
I saw a
night?
picture of that.
I love
recently
it.
saw a picture of that.
She's
That
been waiting
is
to say
awesome.
Yes, they were so cute
I
too.
love it.
Like, there goes Mama on a Harley. Thank you, Shannon. How do you fit into this, Heather?
So I grew up, obviously, she's kind of told a lot of it, watching her advocate for kids,
Yeah.
watching her use her voice for people who may not always have a voice at the table. So I graduated high school, went to college. I thought I wanted to be a teacher. I learned really quickly I did not want to be a teacher.
Okay.
Graduated college, became a preschool teacher. It's
Okay.
awesome. It was not my favorite thing that I did. I loved teaching, but I knew that I wanted to work with kids in a different capacity than
Okay.
teaching. So taught preschool for 3 years, and then I got hired at our local child advocacy center in Bowling Green.
Yeah.
I am the lead child advocate there. I've worked there for 9 years.
Yeah.
And we advocate for kids. We provide services to children who have experienced child sexual abuse,
Okay.
severe physical abuse, witness to violent crimes. We do that through providing what we call forensic interviews.
Okay.
That is an interview that takes place at our center so that kids don't have to go to places like police departments, and they don't have to go to places like the social service office.
Yeah.
And it minimizes the amount of times that they have to talk about their experience.
Yeah.
Because that's traumatic for kids, for them to have to tell about their experiences over and over. That's really traumatic. And so we have forensic interviewers at our center. We provide specialized comprehensive child sexual abuse medical exams. So we have a medical staff, and then we have advocates like myself. There's all kinds of people, awesome people that work there. We have therapists and people who work specifically with what we call an MDT, a multidisciplinary team.
Okay.
And they work with those people who are doing the hard work every day,
Yeah.
who are working those child sexual abuse cases, like police officers, social workers. And I always say my job is to provide a voice for children who may not always be invited to the table, or who may not always be at the table. So I speak on behalf of them to make sure that everything that's being done is in their best interest.
When you talk about children, what are the age ranges? So,
We serve baby to 21-year-olds, and Heather's agency and my agency, we share cases together in the court system.
wow.
So that's where we come together. We're advocating in different ways, but we actually have some of the same cases.
Yeah.
They see some of our CASA children for therapeutic services, mental health services. So it's
What
pretty.
you do, you're speaking of you've come down to Nashville from Kentucky, but in Bowling Green, is that the area you're in? But are these types of organizations in every state?
Mine is.
Yes, ours is too.
Okay. So
It's nationwide.
how can somebody, what can, a lot of people who are listening, because you deal with maybe sex trafficking too, I'm assuming?
Some, yeah.
So how do you identify that?
So we receive our reports through, there has to be an open investigation with law enforcement or social services.
Okay.
So in order for us to see a child, there has to be that open investigation.
Okay. So somebody can't just call a hotline somewhere and report a suspicious child that they found, they didn't know their friend had a kid and there's one in the back room. Like, what would
So
that
that would
seems
look like-
extreme, but
That person would call centralized intake with it's Department of Community-Based Services, but maybe in Tennessee it's CPS, Child Protective Services.
okay.
There's lots of different names for it.
Lots of different names. But for CASA, anyone can be an advocate.
Okay.
And I will tell you that the amount of children we have ending up in our court systems, I'm in family court. Heather's in criminal court mostly.
Okay.
But our family court systems, every child needs a CASA
Yeah.
because no child has a voice in the court system. So the way you would get involved, and it really is the best organization to advocate for children, but it's not for everybody. You just find your local CASA and fill the application out. The hardest part about being an advocate is going through the 30 hours. But to become an officer of the court and to be sworn in, it is a required national training. And
Okay.
CASAs are pretty unified, although we have anonymity, our standards and our trainings, and it's all the same because it's on a national level.
So when you're saying in court a child doesn't have a voice, there is no scenario that the judge would say, lean up and say, Sally Sue, can you, what do you say about that? That's not that would be putting a child. That's not even fair, right?
The judge isn't gonna. Once you reach 18, at that point, a child can go into independent living. That doesn't mean they lose their CASA, but at that point, they re-sign with Child Protective Services or Department of Community-Based Services, and they speak to the judge at that point. But you will not find a judge very often that is going to put a child on the stand.
Yeah.
So the advocate writes the report to the judge.
Okay.
They attend the court hearing. I accompany the advocate to the hearing. And if we need to, we can speak at that point.
Okay.
Our court report tells us what the child's wishes are. A lot of times we go in there against Child Protective Services. We do not have the same, because sometimes you don't even get a social worker to be able to go into the house.
Wow.
They're inundated with work. They're
Yeah.
overwhelmed. But our advocate has seen that child. They have to lay eyes on that child once a month.
Wow.
I have advocates that do once a week.
Yeah.
So you go in on a totally separate page where CPS may say, we're going to reunify this child, but we've seen the child in the home, and this child says, I'll never go back. I'll never go back. So the other thing we find out is children with advocates, they will end up closing their cases on average 8 months quicker than a child without an advocate.
Wow.
But I have children hung up in the court system that have been there for 5 and 6 years.
Wow.
Every child deserves permanency,
Yeah.
and an advocate can help do that.
Yeah.
So
So you're saying that whoever's watching this around the country could look into being a trained advocate
Yep.
themselves. And age range, is there requirements?
newborn to 21.
No, but for people who want to volunteer.
Oh, no.
Okay.
No, and can I tell you one story of an advocate? I have a retired pediatrician on my team.
Wow.
He has a young lady. She just turned 18, but he's been with this child for 4.5 years.
Oh, wow.
She's been in 15 placements.
Wow.
She was 16 years old, ended up in a rehabilitation or an inpatient program.
Yeah.
And a lady there that was just one of the workers said, when you finish this program, I want you to come live with me.
Oh, wow.
And so she doesn't want to be adopted, but guess what? She is in nursing school today.
Oh
Wow.
my gosh, I have chills
That's
over
awesome.
that.
She shouldn't be even
Wow.
like, she graduated at 16
Wow.
and was failing for years and years and years.
But your advocate stayed with her, probably has been the most consistent person in her life.
He's traveled over 20,000 miles.
Oh, wow.
Yep, and he started with 3, her and her 2 half siblings. They were adopted and she wasn't.
Okay.
What do you think that did to her?
Oh, right.
Yeah.
So
Right.
he really ramped it up, but she's gonna be a nurse.
That's
That's awesome.
incredible.
Yeah.
And so you deal with criminal cases where people have broken the laws.
Yes, yeah. So we are not investigators.
Okay.
But we do provide those services for those kids. But we're not removing kids from their home. We're
Okay.
not putting people in jail. That's not our role. But our role is to help the people who do that to
Okay.
be able to do their job well.
Wow. Are you fascinated by this?
Yes, I am, and I have a question for actually both of you. What would you say is your greatest challenge? Our challenge is.
Man, I don't know. That's hard. Do you have one?
I do. Our greatest challenge is being heard.
Yeah.
I mean, our voice to think about who we have to reach. Our voice has to be heard above the attorneys. Our voice has to be heard above the social workers, and we are low man on the totem pole. I've got a report in front of a judge right now, and I'm just praying it gets heard. It's been there for a week. I haven't received a reply from an attorney. I haven't received a reply from a social worker. Meanwhile, I've got a child hanging out in Western Kentucky just crying for somebody to do something.
Wow.
So
Yeah.
our greatest challenge is
So you have to wait to hear from one of those 2 sources. Is that the correct protocol?
yeah, because if we contact the judge directly, we can't do that. That's ex parte communication. So to accept the process and to be heard is the number. It's very frustrating for the advocates. So as being the one who is over their team, keeping them motivated and just plugging them into the passion that they had
Right.
when they signed up, stay the course.
Yeah.
It's just the next step.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'd say our biggest challenge would be having the people to do the work.
Yeah. So to say
yeah.
volunteers or
Well,
people.
you're staffed. All your people
Yeah.
are staffed.
So yes, so and I think just from attending national conferences and things like that, a big challenge is having enough therapists for kids or having enough people so that there's not a wait list. There's places where kids are waiting 3 and 4 months to even get in for an assessment for therapy, and we know that's not fair to kids, but we have to have the people to do the work.
Right.
So, kind of the same with your mom. If a therapist is watching, and they have specialized in something that seems like is a good fit, is there like a government website that they could see if there's any openings, or do they contact? Or do you have to wait on your budget increases to be able to do that? Like, how does that work?
A lot of centers are funded through federal grants and things like
Okay.
that. So there's budget cuts. There's all kinds of things that are going on. And so that does affect the amount of staff that's at a lot of child advocacy centers. Most child advocacy centers have job postings on their websites.
Okay.
We always post our job openings on, I think, Indeed.
Okay.
But yeah, most of the time there's a child advocacy center. There should be, in any part that you're in the country, there should be a child advocacy center that serves your region.
Okay.
And most of the time you can find those jobs just on their local website or on their local social media.
Yeah.
Anything like that.
Well, I would say if you are interested in this field, there's always going to be a need. So if you need to, you know, if it's a heart tug for you and you've got to take a pay cut, but your life is just changed by the fact that you are making a difference in these kids' lives. I mean, you can't put a price on peace. And I'm so proud of you guys. I know in the past, what did you used to do before you? So you were a teacher, and then okay,
Yep.
so you explained that.
Yeah.
I have a great respect for teachers, but then this is just a very fascinating. I whenever I have like a day and I don't have to leave the house and I don't want to sit down and watch something, but I want something to be going on TV, I put on the next 48 hours, the show 48 hours. And so many times, you know, I like it because every commercial break they say, in the first 48 hours, da 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 da, you know, and I'm like, okay, I get caught up. But whenever there's children in the story, I don't even know how you sleep at night, because a kid saw what happened and they've got to be interviewed, or a kid lost their parent, or, you know, their sibling. And just whenever it involves kids, I admire what you guys do so much, and just pray for your peace of mind, peace that passes all understanding, and being able to just be a part of this process and not bear the burden of it. So I really feel for that. Any parting thoughts? Because I do really appreciate the fact that you said we have to have more conversations, and we have to educate each other in this in our society, really. And we tend to be so self-absorbed in our own little needs and our own little worlds that we forget to look at kind of some greater goods and some bigger pictures. And so if someone is kind of feeling lost, and maybe you've retired, or you don't know you know what your next season looks like, it's not too late to adopt an agency that deals with children who are helpless in our systems, and really underrepresented from what we're understanding from you. And if you did nothing else, let's say you were just a mama who will take a list of names and pray. What would you do if somebody said, can I get a list of just first names, and I'll just pray for you every single day, all your advocates and all your children? I mean, that would be pretty awesome, wouldn't it?
That would be pretty awesome.
So, I mean, there's a lot of levels, and we're faith-based people, so we believe that prayer changes things. But as a society, we can do better.
Yeah.
We have our priorities pretty mixed up, I think, and I don't want to talk, you know, specifics or whatever, because we're in Tennessee and you're in Kentucky, so I might bring up something that isn't even relative. But you do cross state lines, don't you, at times?
Our advocates can, yes. Which we have several Tennessee children living in Tennessee, because the social workers, although it may be a case hung up in Warren County, they will not cross state lines. So
Okay.
they'll put a CASA, you know, on a child. And we cross. We have children in Springfield. We don't come down. I do have one child in Nashville,
Okay.
but she's up for adoption by her grandfather and grandmother here.
Wow.
She's been in the system about 6 years.
Wow.
But I think people need to get out of their own world. And stop with the self agendas. You know, again, we live in a world where everybody wants their own agenda met, and they don't take into consideration that there are children and even people who don't have a voice and they don't have a path. We have the ability to be that for them. And one of the challenges we're facing, and I know Heather's agency is too, is the cultural diversity that we're experiencing. And so what is accepted in other cultures, we here consider it abuse and neglect. That's very difficult because we have children being taken from their families that actually that behavior is accepted in their culture.
Yeah.
So that is another huge challenge,
Yeah.
and the language barrier. I mean, we have lots of
Wow.
challenges,
Yeah.
April.
Yeah,
But
I'm sure.
Well, we have our eyes have been opened and our hearts have been opened as well. So I hope you have enjoyed this show and been challenged on a level that I know we have. And I knew this would be rich. I knew this would be good. And so get involved, do something, and we need to make this world a better place. We're so glad you tuned in today. Get it together, y'all. We're here to help.